right, so the Flash section is after the 7 chapters of Dreamweaver. So it's pretty close to the middle of the book. And since it's the Flash section, it starts over as far as the chapter numbering. Okay, so we're going to start with chapter 1 in Flash. You guys will find the Flash program under your Start menu under the Adobe Master Collection. Okay, so it's just Adobe Flash Professional CS6. All right, the startup screen, as you can see here, is very similar to that of Dreamweaver. And once we click on Create New, a couple things I want to point out. Here's where you guys are going to have to really pay attention to instruction. In some instances, it might tell you to work with ActionScript 3.0. In other scenarios, it might tell you to work with ActionScript 2.0. You're going to see the actual difference between the two when we start assigning actions or programming actions into the Flash animations itself. So, I mean, I'll try to point that out to you anytime that we're switching. And the main difference between ActionScript 2.0 and 3.0 is 2.0 has more actions. So if you wanted to tell it on release, so you've created a button, and on that button you want it to say on release, so when I release this button, okay, some sort of animation happens. Okay, there's more options in the 2.0. Okay, to get it to do that than there is in the 3.0 version. Okay, so today we're just going to start with the ActionScript 3.0 because we're not even close to making buttons and assigning actions to them and all of that good stuff. But we'll get there, I promise. Okay, so when you start a new Flash program, Duffy, will you at least pretend like you're following along?
Yes.
Great.
I think this is the coolest part of this class.
All right. So, a few things that look very similar to that of Dreamweaver. Your menu bar going across the top, and then your panel section over on the right. The panel section works just like the panel section did in Dreamweaver. Okay, if you go to Window, you can control which panels that you see. Those are the ones that have check marks beside of them, and the ones that you don't see, okay, are the ones that do not have check marks beside of them. Okay, and that will come into play as we progress along here too, because we will actually be working a lot within the panels on the right-hand side. Now this middle area is what I call your workspace area. This is where you're going to build your Flash animation, and that's in the white box only. Anything in the gray will not actually be seen while your animation is being played. Now you might start your animation out into the gray, okay, so that it looks like it's coming into the white area and then exiting it. Okay, but you just have to keep in mind your workspace area is the white. Whenever you tell it to play the movie, it's only going to be what's in that white area. Obviously, you can modify or change the size. You can also zoom in and zoom out, okay, so that it's bigger. You can see more of it. I'm going to get to the point where I don't let Colin help you because you don't pay attention. And it shouldn't be anybody else's responsibility to catch you up. The real world's going to be here before you know it. No one's going to feel sorry for you anymore. Okay. Underneath that is the timeline. Okay. Now, those of you who've worked with video editing, the timeline is not or shouldn't be as intimidating. And I don't know why this is the part that tends to intimidate people the most, but people get really confused and sidetracked and get overwhelmed with Flash because of the timeline. I'm going to try to make that as simple for you as possible, to break it down so that it's not overwhelming. But there are two key components about the timeline that I want to talk to you about right now. Okay, first of all, the timeline has layers. You guys see where it says layer 1? Down here in the timeline area, at the bottom of your screen, it says layer 1. Okay, that's the name of each layer that you build within the timeline. So within your animation sequence, you could have 76 layers. I always tell students, anytime you want something new on your workspace area, so let's say you have a circle and you have a square and you want to animate them, I would name one layer square and I would name one layer circle. Okay, so that if you're building something that's quite extensive and it might have 76 layers, they're not all layered layer 1 through 75, and you're sitting there trying to figure out where in the world you put that darn circle that you got to go back and fix. So I try to get you guys into the habit of naming your layers whenever you're working with those, instead of them just being layer 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and so forth. Okay, if you double click on the layer, it will let you rename the layer. Okay, so if you double click where it says layer 1, it highlights it, lets you change it. Now, let's talk about the timeline itself. Okay, the timeline is just that. You have to plan out and think about what animation you want to occur when. On frame number 1 here of our timeline, we might want the circle to appear, but we might want to animate that circle from frames 1 to 65. Okay, and so then we would have to set it up so it would animate, and for 1 through 65 frames, you have the circle animating. Then you might add the square layer and decide from frame 66 to 110, you want the square to animate. If you keep it simple, okay, then this is so much easier. Where I find that students have problems and then want me to come over and fix them, and to be honest, it's just asking way too much of me, because some people put these huge animations and they have them all on 1 or 2 layers. Okay, and then it gets maddening. It's maddening for you. You've created the darn thing and they can't figure out how to fix it. When I come over and sit down and you've got all of this animation and crazy stuff going on with just in 1 layer, okay, it's usually pretty difficult, or I'd have to spend 3 hours trying to figure out what you did and where you did it within your timeline. So keep it simple. Every time you want to do something new and different to your animation, add a layer. Okay? The timeline is just time itself. Okay? So if you know for the first 30 seconds you want one animation to happen, and for the next 30 seconds you want something else to happen, okay, plan it out that way. Don't let it be intimidating for you, and it's not intimidating, like I said, if you keep it simple. Okay? So that's going to be like our goal through this whole thing, is I'm going to try to keep it super simple. And if you follow all the simple tricks that I keep on talking about up here, okay, this won't be overwhelming, and you'll catch on and you'll get it and you'll enjoy it. Okay? All right. I'm kind of just jumping around chapter 1, sorry. Let's go ahead and just open up something in Flash that's already been created. So let's go out to Moodle and let's grab a Flash file just so you can kind of see how something very simple looks within the Flash world. So the Flash chapter 1 data files is where you need to go once you log into Moodle. And we're going to download the FL1_1 file. Notice that Flash files have a .fla file extension. And then once you've downloaded it, you can go ahead and open it And it should just be a blue circle that says or has the title Demo Movie on it. All right. Now, I appreciate the fact that there are two things going on here, so they have two layers. I don't appreciate the fact that they have not named their layers. So, if I would have created this animation, layer number 1 would be called Circle. And layer number 2, I would have called it Title. Okay, just so I know what's going on each layer. If you want to edit a layer, you have to make sure that layer is selected. Otherwise, it's not going to let you do what you want to it. So if I wanted to edit Demo Movie, the text, okay, it's not going to let me edit it until I've selected the title layer. And then the text box appears around Demo Movie, and now I can get in there and make edits to it. Same with the circle. Once I click on the circle layer, you guys should notice on your screen that the circle is selected. All right, so this animation, if you look at the timeline, occurs from frame number 1 through frame 40. Now, here's the other important component of Flash. Do you guys see in frame number 1 on both layers there is a filled in circle? And then again on frame 40 there is another filled in circle on the actual timeline. You guys see that? On the timeline, do you guys see those little black circles? Okay, those are called keyframes. Now that's something else you have to get used to. Those of you who work with video editing, keyframes is not a crazy notion, but if keyframes, that term is the first time you've heard that term. When I want something to happen, okay, I insert in a keyframe. Okay, so I'm telling it I want the animation to start because the only thing that's animated is the circle. Okay, if I press the space bar or if I tell it to play, I have a little play button down here at the bottom. You guys see the little controls where I can rewind, play, fast forward. Okay, so that animation occurs from frames 1 through 40. Okay, I can back up the playhead. The playhead is the little red pointer that I'm moving back and forth. Okay, so I can move that back and forth. Okay, so I can rewind that manually, or I can click rewind down here on the control buttons. Okay, so I've told it that I wanted it to end at frame 40. That's why it stops at frame 40, is because I put a keyframe there at 40 on the circle layer so that it knows that is where I want the animation to stop. Okay, the text isn't animated, so I don't have to put a keyframe on frame 40 there. Okay, I just extend the frames out so that Demo Movie is still playing throughout the whole thing. All right, couple little things I want to show you here as we're doing this. All right, down by our control panel where we have our play buttons, you guys should also see it's FPS, frames per second. It's set at 12 right now. Okay, let's say for the circle, so I have the circle layer selected. Okay, I want to speed this up. So if I increase this to 24 frames per second, so I'm going to type in 24. Okay, and then I'm going to press play. Okay, the circle moves faster now. So you can control the speed, okay, by controlling the frame rate down there at the bottom. Okay, so you can make it super slow. If you change it to 6, then obviously that's going to be a lot slower than what 12 was. just like that. All right. Now, a couple things you've got to kind of pay attention to as you're creating animations. Right now, what we see is kind of just like test mode. What you want to make sure of is that your movie plays in actual kind of play mode, because Flash was created, and why it's introduced along with Dreamweaver is because it works together with Dreamweaver. So if you wanted to create an animation for a website, okay, Flash and Dreamweaver talk with each other very well. Okay, you can also put Flash animations in HTML or other things. It's just obviously it's all Adobe, so they make them work together well. So I want to make sure that this animation looks like it's showing me here. So anytime that I think I'm pretty much done with my animation, I want to go up to the control menu, and I want to go to test movie, and I want to test it in Flash Professional. What you should notice is like a little window popped up. Did you guys see that? That said exporting SWF. Because here's the biggie here with Flash. Okay, .fla files, okay, our Flash files. Boy, this is a pretty crappy marker. That thing's brand new. Yikes. All right, let's try a different one. All right, our Flash files, okay, that you can edit. So the .fla files are actual Flash files that you can edit, but that you can't see on a website. So if you were to take this little demo movie right now, okay, with the Flash extension, with the FLA extension, okay, it's not going to show up, okay, when you preview that in the browser. Okay, because we have to go through a process with a Flash file, and that's what it just did. It converted it in the preview mode to an SWF file. That's what we want. Okay, so if we're adding this to a web page, okay, we want it to be an SWF file. That's what we want it to play, because it'll actually play that. The browser will play this. So this is our converted Flash file, okay, that will play in a browser. So that's ultimately what we just did. We didn't actually convert the file yet. I'm going to go through the process here of how you convert the file. But you guys notice in the window, it says fl1_1.swf. Okay, because once you export your Flash file as an SWF, this is what you want to be able to see. So you're looking at exactly what the movie would look like if it was playing on a web page in the browser. Everybody follow that? So the .fla file, so some people get really crazy with cleaning up their files, like they can't handle having old files sitting around. I always caution people with Flash files. Okay, be very careful of doing that to Flash files, because if you have, so you have your original Flash file, if you go, you know what, I'm not going to need that anymore, so I'm just going to delete that off here because I have the SWF file. Okay, that's great, but if you want to go edit the Flash file, you can't do that with this, okay? It's already been converted. You open up the SWF in Flash, it's not going to let you edit it. There's not going to be all the layers that it took for you to create it, all right? So if you want to make sure that you can always go back and edit your file, you need to keep the Flash files. Cameron?
Is there any way to convert it back?
Convert it back?
Yeah.
Unless you have some magic converter online.
Which, you know, are very frowned upon because that promotes plagiarism, piracy.
Right. Okay. So how do we get from point A to point B? So I just always want to tell that cautionary tale, because don't get crazy cleaning up your Flash files just because you're like, oh, I have the SWF, so I don't need the Flash anymore. Well, you might. You might need to go back and edit it. And if so, you need the Flash file. The SWF file is only of value when you're ready for your animation to play on a web page. Okay? So let's go ahead and you guys save this file. We're going to close out of our little preview window. Let's go to File, Save As. Let's take this demo movie. And let's save it to your W drive. And we can just call it demo movie. We don't have to get too crazy here with our file names. Mine will catch up. It's doing the rainbow spin. Okay, and notice that it is saving it as a .fla file, which is your Flash file, which is what we want it to do. Yes, yes, quit giving me warning things, I know. All right, so now we have our Flash file saved to our W drive. We want an SWF file now, so let's go to File, Publish. All right, so it goes through a little, once you go to File, Publish, a little bar pops up, looks like something's happening, and then nothing miraculous has happened that we can tell. So I'm going to minimize my screen here. I'm going to go out to my W drive. Wherever you saved the demo movie file, okay, you should have demomovie.fla, which is your Flash file. You should have a demo movie. You should have an HTML file. And then you should have a demo movie SWF file. Okay, that SWF file is what you would put into a web page. So I'm going to show you that. Let's see, do we want Trip Smart or Striped Umbrella? I don't care. We'll just open up one of them. Show you how this works. So I'm going to open up a page here from the Striped Umbrella. Come on. Rainbow spin. All right, we're just going to be patient on mine opening up Dreamweaver. Watch the infinite bounce at the bottom. It's just mind-numbing between the bounce and the rainbow spin. And then there's life.
See, it's half your computer, but then it's half Adobe. Adobe just sucks.
Yes, yeah. So you put the two together, and I have a lethal combination.
And look at the icon bouncing in the corner. He's so happy about it.
I know. He's like, I'm still here. Please be patient.
Adobe sucks. If your program takes more than 10 seconds to boot up, then it's garbage, is what it is.
But I mean, computer's garbage. It's not Adobe.
It's Adobe. Well, because I have a fairly moderate computer, and it takes a while for Adobe things to
Right.
load up.
Do you know how many computers we've had to go through in the last 5 years just to find something that will open up Adobe stuff for you guys at a decent rate? Last year, we would sit in here, and I'm not kidding when I say this, it didn't matter. I mean, it was random. It was never the same person. Okay, but there was sometimes, you know, we were like 13 minutes into class and we were still sitting there waiting on Flash to open up for somebody or Dreamweaver to like open up for someone. It was mind-numbing.
What type of computer do you have?
All right, so I've got this SWF file. Now, like with anything else in Dreamweaver, you guys can't forget Dreamweaver, all right? Like anything else in Dreamweaver, like pictures, we have to have it saved in the folder, right? So I'm gonna take my demo SWF file and I'm gonna put it in my striped umbrella folder. That way when I come back over to Dreamweaver and I've managed the striped umbrella website, then I have my demo movie SWF file. So just like an image, I'm going to click and drag and drop this onto my Dreamweaver page. All right, now, right now it looks like nothing's happening, nothing's occurring, okay? What I want to do is I want to make sure that my SWF file here is selected. Once I do, just like everything else in Dreamweaver, the property bar at the bottom is now properties for my Flash movie. Okay, so if I want to set it to autoplay or to loop, I have those options. Now, right now, I'm like, okay, it's not doing anything. What's going on? Well, let's preview it in the browser, okay, and see what we get. I set it on both autoplay and loop. And my computer needs a newer version of Flash. We're not going to sit here and install it.
No, I actually think you just need to click on it.
You think it'll go?
Yeah.
No, I tried that.
Just press allow.
I'm control clicking. It says to control click it.
Mine took me to the Flash website. I'm downloading it.
I don't know that it'll let you.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yay. All right, so now it's playing my movie. Now, when we get done with Flash, this is exactly what you guys are going to do. You're going to create an animation that goes along with your how-to website, and you're going to put it on one of the pages, okay, that it goes with. All right, that's going to be like one of your final Flash projects in here. All right, so that's how Dreamweaver and Flash work together to create an animation.
Only the entire website in Flash.
He probably will because you can. You can make an entire website in Flash. Because you can make all your buttons have actions to them and we're actually going to basically kind of do a mini one like that, and each page will have like a different animation on it. And then you have a back button that takes you back to the home page, so he could actually do that.
No, doing it.
You just cheated that last time.
All right, let's talk about a couple other things with this animation, and then we're going to start one from scratch ourselves. Okay, so right now we have our circle going in a straight line, right? Well, I'm going to make sure that the circle layer is selected, and I'm going to make sure that I'm on frame 1. Okay, once I do that, not only does it have the green neon box around my circle that it's selected, you guys see like the path, because it's created the path that it takes as well, right? And right now that path is on a straight line. Why don't you guys grab any point on that path I'm not drawing, I'm selecting. Make sure your arrow key. You guys have a whole set of tools on the very right hand side. Mine's chopped off, you can't see it. Make sure the arrow, which is the selection tool, is selected. And then click on that green line, and you can change any part of this line to be curved in whatever way that you want.
That's nothing.
Do what?
It's just moving the line.
Oh, you got your sub-selection tool selected. Do the top one. Oh, there you go. The arrow on your toolbar, at the very top of your toolbar, you have a built-in arrow key, a black one and a white one. A black one is selection, the white one is sub-selection. Right now you want selection. Okay? And you can move that around anywhere you want. Okay, because you have your text tool selected and you need to have your arrow. Colin, that's all you're allowed to help him today.
Sure.
Because I shouldn't have to teach it and then you reteach it.
Something different.
Mm-hmm.
Something he knows how to do. And never mind, he doesn't know how to do it. So that doesn't count, okay?
I
Guess
did
you
one
shouldn't have
more.
wasted it.
No, look what he did. He made this thing go big squiggly, and I wanted to do that too.
Right. We'll get there. All right, so you can change the path. So even once a path has been created, you can always go back and change that path that you've created. That's why I say it's so important to break everything down into layers, to name those layers, so when you want to go back and edit something, it's really easy to find. If you had multiple circles on here, I would be as specific as saying blue circle. Okay, so you would know exactly which layer to go to and to make whatever edits that you want to make. All right, let's say that I want to kind of change the workspace area that I've got going on right now. Like, let's say I have way too much white space at the bottom. My animation is not going to come all the way down to the bottom. That's a lot of blank white space that's unnecessary. So if I want to change or modify, so I'm going to go to the Modify menu. The very first option is the document. Okay, I'm going to change the dimensions of my document, okay, which is basically my workspace area. So I'm at 550 pixels. I'm going to keep it at that, but it's the height that I want to change. I'm going to change that to 160. And I'm going to change my background color. So you guys can pick whatever background color that you want. Okay, and then I'm going to make that modification. All right, now it looks like I want to just kind of show you what I was talking about earlier, because I did this intentionally so you could see this. Okay, I made mine go a little beneath my actual document settings. Okay, right now you can see the blue circle when I press play. What I want you to do is go up to Control and go to Test Movie, which is what we wanted to preview as what it would look like as an SWF file. So now when it plays, you can see that you can't necessarily see all of the circle now, right? Okay, so those are just like little things you got to keep in the back of your head whenever you're making modifications. So if you're changing the document size, okay, is it going to show everything that you want it to show? Or have you chopped off too much? Or are you intentionally making the animation, you know, look like it's going off the screen and then coming back onto the screen? All right, any questions or problems up to that point? All right, let's close out the preview. And let's just start a new ActionScript 3.0 file. Because let's create our own animation so you can see how you do that yourself instead of playing around with one that's already been created. All right, the first type of motion that we're going to talk about is a tween. It's called a tween animation. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this file in my W drive, and I'm going to call it tween. Because this is just a very basic motion tween. All right, your toolbar, okay, that's on the right-hand side of your window. It starts with the arrow key at the top and then works its way down through different tools. All right, we have a tool where we can draw in shapes. It starts with a rectangle tool, but any of the tools that have the little arrow in the bottom right-hand corner, that means if I hit that arrow, it's going to expand out that menu and show me other options. Okay, once I do that, I can see I have a rectangle tool, an oval tool, and really a polystar tool. The other two is for something else besides the type of drawing we're doing right now. Okay, so you can pick whichever shape you want to pick. All right, once we pick a shape, notice the property bar over here in the panel section that I'm circling. The properties now are the properties of whatever shape it was that you selected. You can make a stroke color, which is the outline of your shape, and you can create a fill color. Okay, so you can pick whichever one you want. You can increase the stroke, okay, or the thickness of the line that's outlining your object. Notice under the style button, you can even change the style of the stroke. So if you wanted it to be a double line or a dash line or a rippled effect or ragged, okay, there's all kinds of different ones that you can choose from. Okay, and let's just go ahead and on the left-hand side of our workspace area, let's go ahead and draw in whatever shape it was that you selected. All right, everybody got the object drawn and placed on the left side of your screen? All right, now we've got it drawn on there, but now I need to create that motion tween. So the first thing I need to do is click on my selection tool, which is that very top arrow on the toolbar. Okay, the black arrow, the white one's sub-selection. We'll get into that eventually. All right, and what I need to do with my selection tool is I'm just going to drag a big square around kind of the circle shape that I have so it selects the entire object that I've created. And you know that it's selected. You guys can't see this on my screen, but on yours, you should see a bunch of little dots inside of your circle. Okay, that means it's been selected. All right, once I know that my object is selected, I'm going to go up to Insert on the menu bar, and I'm going to come down to Motion Tween. All right, then I get a little box that says, hey, I can't tween this. You got to convert it to a symbol in order for it to tween. And I'm like, okay, then convert it to a symbol. So I click OK. All right, so now I should have a blue box around my object, which means it's still selected. It's just been converted into a symbol. All right, now I need to tell it where I want this object to end. Okay, so this is my starting point, Okay, I was on frame 1 of layer 1. You guys should notice now that I told it to be a motion tween, it's brought it out to frame 24 on your timeline. You guys see that down here at the bottom? So it's saying, okay, great. I know you're starting on frame 1. You've told me to be a motion tween, so where do you want to end? Okay, so I'm just going to take the object and I'm going to place it wherever I want it to end. Okay, and it creates that motion tween for me. So I have a keyframe on frame 1 because it's telling it where to start. Whenever I dropped it, it made a keyframe, which is the filled circle on frame number 24 because that's where it's to stop. Now, if I take the playhead back to 1 and I hit my play button, okay, it's going to follow that path. Whatever the path was that I created. Okay, and just like before, I can manipulate the frame rate. Okay, I can change, okay, my path. Okay, if I want the path to be curved instead of a straight line, okay, I can do that. Okay, whatever I want to do to the object, I can do. I can rewind it back and play it, see what that looks like whenever I make any type of change. All right, any problems or questions on that? Anyone not get the motion tween to work? You gotta have your selection tool. You gotta have the arrow selected. There you go. All right, any other problems?
Is this an optical illusion I'm witnessing right now?
What?
So like when you go like put it back and push play, you can still see the green line, but it's like not there.
The green line's always going to be there while you're in edit mode. The green line will go away when you actually play it. But we've done that multiple times as a class, so I'm sure that's why you're lost, because you haven't.
No, I'm not lost. I just thought it was kind of cool.
Oh,
I thought it
that green line always stays there while you're in this mode.
But it gets real light, so I thought it like went away, but my eyes were deceiving.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick, for that great contribution.
All right. Now, did you guys notice that it basically told us what frame? Once we did the motion tween, it told us it was going to end on frame 24. You don't have to stick with what it's told you to. If you guys go down to the timeline right now and go to frame 24 and hover your mouse over it, it should turn into a double arrow. Okay, if I click and drag, I can drag this out, and if I want it to last until frame 60, I drag and drop it, and now my animation is going to last from frame 1 to frame 60. Okay, so just because whenever you create the motion tween, it picks an arbitrary number doesn't mean you have to stick with that. You can make and drag this out, or you could drag it in if you only wanted it to last to frame 10. Okay, I can take this back and I can drag it down to frame 10. Okay, and that's all it lasts. Okay, notice that's also going to change how quickly or how slowly that travels on the path that you've created. Now, I'm going to go ahead and name my layer as well while I'm here. Mine's a blue circle, so I'm just going to call it blue circle. I've got mine set so that it only occurs from frames 1 to 10. And I've got my frame rate set to 24. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and save. We'll stop here for today. pick up with us tomorrow.